I call this meeting to order, February 16th of Akron Rotary Club. Connor Jarvis, will you give us our invocation, sir?
I will give the invocation. Thank you to David Hall for stepping in for me last week. I just want to share a reading from you, a devotional I thought was very fitting as of today. Fat Tuesday kind of snuck up on me. I don't know about the rest of you. And I guess lately every day has been Fat Tuesday since COVID. I haven't been working out as much as I had hoped to have been, but I'm getting back into it. So, but if we could just all pause for a moment and look outside, if you've got a window, or just when you have a moment today or around you right now, think about your surroundings and think about what you see, what makes you smile, and whatever pops into your head, what we just described to ourselves, think about this. What you saw was always there. It was just waiting for you to pause and to notice it. And that's the basic purpose of Lent, which begins tomorrow in the Christian tradition. I understand not all of us on the call might be practicing Christians, and really I think there's principles we can take away regardless of your faith or spiritual beliefs from the Lenten season. The basic purpose of Lent is create space in the middle of life's responsibilities to appreciate what's always been there, God's presence. And as many of us know, or all of us may know, Lent's a 40-day period leading up to Resurrection Sunday or Easter in the Christian faith. And it's based on Jesus's 40 days in the wilderness. But really, Lent's a tool that we can use to help us become more aware of God's voice in our lives and on our day-to-day basis. Although Lent isn't actually mentioned in the Bible, it was discussed at the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, because it provided a rhythm of reflection and repentance for Christians as they entered spring, a season that's often associated with new beginnings, and I'm sure something that many of us are anxiously looking forward to in this continued COVID world that we're living in, and the ability to be outside yet again, though I know spring in Northeast Ohio often means rain, and it's not till summer that we get to enjoy that. But the purpose of Lent isn't to better our lives, but to center our life on what matters most. And one of the ways we can do this is through practicing spiritual habits. So I'd encourage all of us to use this season as a time of improvement, of reflection together to make space in our lives for what matters most. And if you just bow your heads with me, I'd like to say a prayer in that theme. Lord, please grant us the discipline to use this season not only as a time of reflection and awareness, but also as an opportunity to implement positive personal or spiritual habits, such as prayer, gratitude, meditation, generosity, mindfulness, stillness, or even fasting. And I just pray that we would emerge from this Lenten season stronger, with a sense of peace, a sense of gratitude, a sense of purpose, and ultimately clarity as Rotarians, ready and equipped in our mission to effect positive change through service above self throughout the greater Akron region, Northeast Ohio, and the world. In his name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Connor. And now the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Cheryl, may I have the four-way test slide, please? Say along with me, please. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you. Karen, you are our greeter today.
I am. Hello, everyone. So we have two soon-to-be non-guests, Steve Bozart and Zach Prosser, but I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves when they get to the induction portion. And then Katie Miller has a guest today.
I have
You're on mute, Katie.
I have my husband Tim Miller's here.
Hi, Tim. Welcome.
Welcome, Tim. And I believe I did not see any other guests. So.
Okay, if there are any other guests that snuck in here, please unmute yourself and introduce yourself to us. And hearing none, we're going to move on to our icebreaker. Now, I know that we have not yet debriefed from our strategic plan reboot, but I'm going to take advantage of a theme that came through 3 of the different teams that gave me their notes that I've been trying to put into a Venn diagram. And I did learn that to have 6 circles overlapping in a Venn diagram is it's a little challenging to my my medial art skills in my PowerPoint. So stay tuned. You'll get to see that in a couple of weeks when we have our debrief. But what I'd like the icebreaker to be today is I'm going to randomly call on folks, and I will leave Steve and Zach off the hook today since they'll get to tell us their story in a little bit. But I want you to tell us your vocation or your avocation. One of the things we've lost since we've gone virtual is we don't have the discussions at lunchtime next to people that you didn't know very well and say, what do you do for a living? And consequently, I think we're missing opportunities to network. So your name will be on your screen, and you are welcome to put your vocation next to your name if you can get fancy and rename yourself so that that is a way for people to recognize, oh, okay, that's Cheryl Warren. She is the guru of Zoom. Write that down, and I'll make sure I connect with her after the meeting. Okay, well, let's get started. Hugh, you just popped in my view. Tell me your vocation or alternatively your avocation or both quickly. You're muted.
Got it. Well, I'm a accountant by trade, CPA. I've been a CPA for 60 years now, and been both practicing on my own and worked for a large accounting firm.
All right, thank you. And how about you, Hugh? Hugh, you are muted. There you go.
Okay, I'm in marketing, and I work with premium balloon accessories and cello core. And recently, we are the sole importer of face masks, which is a perfect timing, as well as the Code Blue air sterilizer. So 2 great products that are new with us that we're going to start marketing. So that's
Great, thanks, Hugh. Katie Miller.
I'm here. This is Jenny.
Hi, so I am a independent consultant with Touchstone Crystal by Swarovski, and I've been in the retail jewelry business for about 8 years now. And I also with Rodan and Fields, so I've been in the skincare side of things for about 2 or 3 years now. So I like to say that I'm bringing a radiant style to you through either jewelry or your skin.
And we knew that.
I'm also a licensed insurance agent, and I also work for Tim's company insurance service agency. So.
And in your spare time?
In my spare time, I like to travel. And lately, through pandemic, when anxiety was getting the better of me, I picked up the crochet hook again. So I have found that to be a very, very useful way to distract my brain from the news. So I've been making baby hats for the Christ Child Society.
Therapeutic.
Very therapeutic.
All right, Karen, you have a new job, and I like that you put on your dream partner there.
Yes. So Karen Herdlicka, and I, after spending 20 plus years on the nonprofit side, I'm now with the Akron Community Foundation as the director of their Center for Family Philanthropy. So I am teaching strategic philanthropy and also working with our donor advised fund holders to identify their philanthropic dreams so they can connect to their passions in their philanthropy. So.
Great. Steve Bowie, good to see you. Tell us what you do.
Good morning, or good afternoon, I should say. I run a cognitive skills brain training center, which probably is a little bit confusing when you hear that description. But essentially what we do is we work with kids and adults in helping build up the necessary skill set to have strong foundations of how to learn. And it is life-changing. We see IQs go up on average 15 points. So working a lot.
Is there an age limit?
Actually, no, there is not. We had a gentleman who was 58 that went through here last year, had struggled all of his life with dyslexia, and he got the victory over dyslexia by working with us. It so affected him that in his placement for work, because he was looking to transition, he ended up getting a new position, making 35% more. So he enjoyed coming here. Wow,
That's pretty awesome. I could always use a couple extra IQ points. I may call you David Hall. I like your legacy trust background, so I suspect that's related.
Yeah, so I left the banking industry. Well, I left the bank, worked for 31 years, and started with Preferred Legacy Trust Company in January of last year. So just completed my 1-year anniversary. We act as independent trustees and work with all wealth advisors and just trying to be a true fiduciary for people. So it's been interesting, been a huge learning curve, great time to start a new company right before a pandemic. So
Awesome. Let's get a couple of our newer members. Lorraine Giovazzi. This was actually, you inspired this icebreaker, so I hope you enjoyed it.
I do. Thank you so much. Steve, I might be in touch with you. I'm Lorraine. I'm a foster parent recruiter for SAFI of Canton, Akron. SAFI stands for Specialized Alternatives for Families and Youth. So we are a therapeutic foster care agency, just trying to find people to open their hearts and homes to our kids in the community.
That's wonderful. And Phil Williams. When you're not professionally golfing, what are you doing?
Yeah, the hat is just to remind me with this snow that golfing's not too far away. I am director of new business development with the United Way of Summit and Medina County. We recently went through a merger, so now we have Medina under our belt. Relatively new to Akron, and excited to meet people and network and see what Akron's all about once COVID's over, right?
Right. Well, welcome to Akron. You haven't gotten to explore. You moved here in the pandemic. Good for you. Katerina Pappas. Hi. Welcome.
Hi.
Can you share your vocation?
I am the Chief Legal Counsel at Summit County Children's Services.
Excellent. Sam Lepica.
There you go. I am founding partner at Stratos Wealth Partners, a financial services firm we started about 10 years ago.
Well, thanks for sharing. And Michael Shearer.
Well, good afternoon, Dr. Bob. Mike Shear, I'm the editor of the Beacon Journal, and I'm also, same time, the regional editor for Gannett newspapers in Northern Ohio here, 11 other sites, including Canton and Worcester and others. So, and I get to run all that from my basement right now, which is always a lot of fun. So,
Well, you can adapt, but it sounds like you're able to adapt. I wouldn't have known that you weren't in the real office doing your usual job opportunity. All right, well, thanks everybody. So again, this is something that we're going to mix in periodically so that we remind each other where our networking opportunities are. And Cheryl says, if you set up your name in your actual Zoom, actually, I just lost you there, Cheryl. You were giving us instructions. Can you unmute and tell us what you just typed?
Sure. I had a question about the Zoom name on your screens. If you go into your Zoom profile after the meeting and you actually change it in your Zoom profile, it will always come up. But changing it here does not permanently change it each time you log in. So take a minute afterwards, go into your Zoom profile and put your name in the way you'd like to see it appear on all your meetings. Thank you.
All right, very good. Well, thank you. And are there any ambassadors, anybody who's been to another club or a Rotary International event or some other Rotary function that'd like to share? I'm flipping the screens here. Steve Bowie, have you been doing anything with your pets training?
I have a training coming up on Thursday, and you know we're making the best of it, and I applaud Cheryl. Cheryl works her tail off with it, and good turnout. So yeah, Thursday.
All right. Anybody else who's been a Rotary ambassador? I don't see Jack's hand up today. He's usually traveling somewhere. All right, hearing none, I'll put in a plug if you want to join the Clock Tower Hudson Rotary tomorrow. You can hear part 2 of my Where Are We Going with COVID? They've asked me to speak to them, and it'll be focused mainly on the vaccines and what kind of safety things we can and cannot do after a vaccine. So assumptions that we may regret because we still haven't learned exactly everything we want to learn. So that's the 7:15 meeting. Happy birthday today to Patty Graves. I don't think I saw Patty come in the room. It's rare that we land right on a day of a birthday. I'll announce some other birthdays that are coming up in the following week towards the end of the meeting. I want to take this moment to congratulate again the Chili Open team. $315,961. That's remarkable. That's a record, and they did it pivoting. We didn't expect to go virtual. We tried to do a hybrid and quickly recognized that wasn't going to work. That didn't really deter their efforts, and we set records. That's awesome. Manhattans. Connor Jarvis, in addition to giving us our good invocation, he also tends bar on occasion. So please, if you're free Friday at 7, or if you're not free, get free, because I think this is a date you want to make. He's going to teach us how to make a Manhattan Connor Jarvis style. And the recipe is in our Rotarian. If you don't wish to partake in a Manhattan or you're otherwise engaged, please just join us with a beverage of your choice. But as you know, Connor is always at a loss for words, so I'll try to fill in for him when he hesitates. So please join us at 7 o'clock on Zoom. Sorry,
Don't
Connor,
wanna
I
miss
couldn't
it.
resist.
It's all right.
And finally, make a note on your calendar, March 9th, we're going to have the strategic plan follow-up. So you guys worked your tails off in the small group activities. All the facilitators quickly got me the summary of their meetings. And I am now trying to look at low-hanging fruit of overlapping domains so I don't repeat myself throughout the session, but I will count on our facilitators and scribes to keep me straight. But again, that is coming up March 9th, and you've already learned some of the feedback we got today by making sure we network a little more effectively. Is anybody happy? Let me see. Steve Bowie's happy.
Yes, I have $5 today, and I was reflecting about, I'm going to make a comment. Connor led us in our invocation, and I want to say I really believe God loves our club. And the reason I say that, and I'm sure you all have thought about this, how could we possibly, in the year of COVID, have Dr. Rob as our president and running the show? And I want to tell you, that is a blessing of epic proportions. And Dr. Rob, so appreciate your leadership. And so part of the $5 is for you and for the blessing that God has bestowed on us by having you in that position. And I also want to recognize Karen Herdlicka and her husband, Jeff. Amazing couple. And they blessed my family, and in particular my wife, this weekend with a beautiful bouquet of flowers. And Karen, you blew my mind. So thank you, dear.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you, Karen. Who else is happy? David Hall's happy.
So I have five happy dollars, and just wanted to number one say thank you, Dr. Rob. He helped my wife and me through my wife having COVID a couple weeks ago, and kept our fears calm. And then another part of the $5 I'd like to still put out there that I'm looking for more invocators and greeters. And if you need help, you can sign up through our website. Just scroll down the left-hand side, you'll see a place for greeters. If you have trouble doing that, you can reach out to me by email or phone, and I'll be happy to let you know what's available and help you get signed up. So thank you to those who've already signed up. You guys have been tremendous help.
Thanks, David, and thanks for your efforts pulling people in every week. This is a great opportunity. This is a great opportunity for those of you who are relatively new to the club, again, to get your name out there. Now that you have your signage changed, that'll also get your vocation out there. And if you don't want your vocation, you can put your avocation. Because, you know, in addition to having a lot of hikers in this club, we find that there's a lot of common interests. So please don't hesitate to do that. Jack Herrig.
I'll give $5 happy for VA and the way they have handled the veterans COVID inoculations. I got my second one last week. They give you a badge to say the VA did it. They run 6 through every 15-minute clinic, and they're just doing a tremendous job.
Well, I'm glad you're vaccinated. I hope you found someplace for your sidekick there to get vaccinated.
We're still working on that.
All right. Well, Akron Children's has had approval to give 1B vaccines, but we've not gotten the vaccine to do it. So if I find out that we're in the market, I can let you all know. Who else is happy? Let me flip through here. Susan Coble Hall is happy. And she's muted.
Yes, I am unmuted now, but I am very happy. I had I had a happy birthday, happy anniversary, happy St. Valentine's Day. And now I want to wish everybody a happy Mardi Gras. And if we had a real gathering, I would share all my beads with you, but hopefully you'll all eat and eat and eat and eat tonight, because that's what you need to do to prepare for tomorrow. And very reasonable eating. So I wish you a happy Mardi Gras. If you need some inspiration, you can check at Russo's on State Road for the Cajun foods. My first Mardi Gras was in Nice, France in 1965. And I've never made it to Louisiana. I've never made it to Brazil, but I still tried to bring the world to everyone and to get out in the world myself. So happy Mardi Gras.
Thank you, Susan. I did make it to Mardi Gras one time in New Orleans, and it was actually pretty frightening. And I was a lot younger than I am now, and I was glad to get away from that one. Steve, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I have no idea what a happy dollar is or how to pay it, but I'm going to add in, I'm going to do 10 happy dollars, I think, and somebody's going to tell me how to pay, I'm sure. I learned today that Lent is about centering our life on what matters most, and I think that's a great way to look at it, so I'm going to take that through. I learned that Connor Jarvis can invocate like no other, and I've learned that over a couple meetings, so very impressive. Karen Herdlicka, you and I are going to have breakfast or lunch as soon as we can, because I want to talk to you. I got a new golf partner in Philip Williams, which is awesome. Michael Shear, I've sent out a press release today to the Beacon Journal. Our CEO is retiring at Coleman Professional Services. So I'm doing some media today, and I've reached out to some of your people. Julie Brandel's my sponsor and just awesome. Sam Lapika is an old friend. And isn't Patty Graves just one of the most wonderful people you ever meet? And I miss seeing her in church every Sunday. So as soon as we're back there, I'll look forward to seeing her. And she loves seeing my kids. So, and I'm especially grateful to be joining the Rotary Club of Akron. Thank you.
We're grateful to have you here. Connor, your hand was up.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate those kind words. We're thrilled to have you here officially. I would say my happy dollar, I'm hesitant to say this because I don't know how Dr. Rob's going to react, but Courtney and I, my beautiful wife, we managed to keep a tradition alive this Valentine's Day weekend. For the past 11 years, we've gone to the Melting Pot wherever we've been. That's kind of our thing, the fondue restaurant. So we were up in Beechwood, felt very safe. You know, we're responsible about it, very cautious. She's had both doses of her vaccine. I'm not vaccinated, but we felt very safe and comfortable there, and we're able to keep that tradition alive. So it's been 11 years we've been doing that, and it was nice to just get out and to be able to maintain that tradition throughout this continued crazy season we're in. So happy for that. 5 happy dollars.
All right, Cheryl Warren.
Yes, I carry on a similar tradition, and it was a very difficult decision to make. My best friend and I and our husbands have gone out for 25 years on Valentine's Day or the day before Valentine's Day. And we made the decision to do it this year very safely, social distanced. We picked a restaurant that was socially distanced, and I am so glad we did it. I have been out of the house less than 10 times since March 10th. For any social purposes. And so it was good for my psyche. It was phenomenal, but thank you. On 5 happy dollars, I'll put that.
All right, and I'll wrap us up. I have 5 happy dollars because I am the only relative vaccinated for my grandson when his new, he started daycare a week ago, only to have his parents told that despite the fact that all the people that take their kids to this daycare across the street from the hospital are hospital employers and are hospital workers and don't get President's Day off, they closed the daycare. So Papa Mac got to spend a whole day with CJ. And I'll tell you, Cheryl mentioned therapy. That was therapy. So I took President's Day off. I may make that an annual tradition moving forward, but I have at least 5 happy dollars for that therapy. So thank you, everybody. Okay, we have 2 people to induct today, which is very exciting. So I want to greet our guests and fellow Rotarians. On behalf of the Rotary Club of Akron, it's my privilege to induct 2 members today. Allow me to introduce candidates for membership: Zach Prosser and Steve Bozart. Zach's original sponsor was Sam Lupica. Tom Knauer has been navigating since Zach was able to have some changes in his outside commitments and is rejoining us. And Julie Brandel was the sponsor for Steve. Steve and Zach, you're beginning a great adventure of leadership, friendship, and service to your community with your invitation to membership. Rotary Club of Akron has accepted you as people of good character, high ethical standards, people who have hearts for service, and people who will represent the classification of a community leader. The Rotary Club of Akron has invited you to become part of this worldwide organization dedicated to encouraging the foster of the ideal of service above self. If we were in person, this is the time where I would ask your sponsors to present you with your Rotary name badge. But since we can't do that, take note that it features the Rotary wheel. That's the international symbol of Rotary. And we'll get those to you in some manner in the next several weeks and encourage you to wear it proudly. Zach and Steve, you've been invited to join Rotary, but it's through your own actions that you truly become Rotarians. We encourage you to learn all you can about Rotary and to strengthen your own leadership and communication skills by actively participating in activities of the club, including attending weekly meetings, social events, service projects, and giving the invocation, for example. You will be provided many opportunities to this club and district to enhance and expand your skills, and these opportunities hopefully will be of great value to you. You will also be given opportunities to provide service to others through club service, vocational service, community service, and international service. I invite you fellow Rotarians to freely give of your time to make Zach and Steve feel welcome and provide them with guidance and friendship. Fellow Rotarians, please help me welcome Steve Bozart and Zach Prosser to our clubs and the world's newest Rotarians. Would you two mind saying a few words, introducing yourself to the club? And let's start with Steve.
Well, thank you all. I appreciate you inviting me, and I look forward to being a part of this wonderful club. I know a lot of people in the club and have been around it for a lot of years. I've been in Akron since 1996 after I graduated from Kent State and moved to Iowa City, Iowa for 6 years before I moved back and got married, and have been here ever since, working in a variety of different, I'm a nonprofit development guy, worked at Akron Children's and Akron General prior to a stint at Southwest General. And now I am the Vice President of Business Development and Marketing at Coleman Professional Services. We're a large nonprofit behavioral health organization throughout Ohio, serving 22 counties, about 30,000 clients a year. We're about a $60 million a year enterprise. So a fairly good sized mental health organization, helping people, which is near and dear to my heart. I also have a background in fraternity and brotherhood, very important to me. I'm a former national president of my college fraternity, Delta Chi, where in that position of leadership, we were able to accomplish a few things that still go on now, 16 years after I took office there, which is our President's Academy, which is still happening and which I facilitated that a couple weeks ago. And also our partnership with the V Foundation for Cancer Research. We presented them a check in 2006 for $12,000, our first contribution, and we've now gone over $2 million that we've raised for cancer research by the partnership we formed with the V Foundation. So I'm very proud of that. And I love Akron. I look forward to being as involved in the club as I can be. And thank you again for having me. And again, as I mentioned, and anybody that needs golf partners too, I'm your guy. Thanks, Dr. Rob.
I may need you for lessons as opposed to, I think you'd be afraid to be on the same team with me. Zach,
yes,
welcome back.
Thank you. Appreciate that. It's good to be back. As you can see behind me, there's a painting of New Orleans. I moved here 6 years ago from New Orleans, so I love seeing the Mardi Gras beads and hearing the stories. But I pastor at Celebration Church here in Akron on North Hill. And my wife and I co-pastor here and are loving Akron, loving being here in Northeast Ohio. Not sure that we're loving the weather today, though, although all of our family in New Orleans is getting a lot of ice. So I'd prefer the snow over having freezing pipes in New Orleans. But so we pastor at Celebration Church. Last year, we were able to serve over 20,000 people with groceries during the COVID relief and such that we were able to do. So we are probably most known in the community for what we do to provide support to those in need. I also am a life coach and leadership coach. That was kind of what took me away from my time. Previously, I had a lot of commitments going on at the time, but I do coaching, train coaches. I'm the director of coaching and coach training at Emerge. I know that many people are familiar with Emerge here in Akron. So I do a lot of work with them, also adjunct coach for the Center for Creative Leadership. So I'm involved in a lot of different things when it comes to coaching, pastoring, ministry here in the Akron area. So it's great to be back.
We're happy to have you back. Thank you. But at this point, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Roger Geiger, the VP of Ohio Executive Director of the National Federation of Independent Business. So Katie suggested him as a speaker. We jumped on it. He was gracious enough to accept, and I'm going to let him take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Mack. I don't know, Dr. Rob, Dr. Mack, Doctor, you got them all. So thanks for that kind introduction. My father was a physician, so I appreciate your profession for sure. Tell a little story. when the good doctor asked if I'd be willing to come and speak to the Akron Rotary, he said, you know, Roger, we don't just let anybody come and speak to the Rotary. It's really important for us to make sure that somebody who comes and speaks believes in the United States Constitution and all of its prevailing amendments. And of course, without hesitation, I said, why, of course, I believe in the United States Constitution and all of its amendments. He said, good, that means you believe in the First Amendment right of free speech. You can give one on February the 16th. So here I am exercising my right of free speech. So thank you. This is interesting for me, doing a Zoom Rotary Club. Normally, under normal circumstances, I would do 25 or so Rotary Club events across Ohio. And since the pandemic, this is only the second one. This is the first one by Zoom. I did one in Holmes County in the fall, and that was a very interesting experience because it was in a large hotel ballroom. The tables were set apart. Literally, there were 50 people, but it looked like in a ballroom that could seat 500. So I all wearing masks. So that made it very interesting, you know, from the far away podium looking way over this audience. So that was an interesting experience. I want to say thank you.
I think you might have bumped your laptop because you just went mute. You were starting to thank somebody.
There we go. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. I want to thank everybody for this opportunity. Our organization is the voice of small business. We're a nonprofit 501c6 organization that was founded in 1943 by a group of entrepreneurs who really felt there was not an organization of the day that was really reflecting and advocating in the halls of Congress and at the state legislatures across the country on behalf of small businesses, particularly the priorities of small and independently held businesses. And today, our organization has over 350,000 members nationwide. We have a chapter in all 50 states. And here in Ohio, we have 21,000 small business owner members of our organization. Right in Akron, in the Summit County area, we have 499 members. And the only criteria is that you are independently held and for-profit. And that but we cut all of the demographics that you can possibly think of. I always like to say if there's a type of business, we've got one of them as a member. But typically our member is somebody who employs 25 or fewer, has $2 million or less in gross revenue sales. And so I give you that as a background so you understand kind of where my comments are coming from. Small business, it's like saying motherhood and apple pie, but a lot of people don't recognize how significant small business is. And normally at a Rotary Club, I'd ask you to stand or wave or hold your hand up because I want to kind of demonstrate, if I may, how significant small business is, even in the midst of this Rotary Club meeting. So if you wouldn't mind, I can't see everybody, but if you wouldn't mind for the benefit of everybody, and maybe we could put the screen back on so that everybody is seen. But if you are a small business owner, an entrepreneur, own your own business, I'd like you to raise your hand and keep your hand raised if you wouldn't mind. If you work for a small business or are employed by a small business owner, an independently held company, I'd like you to raise your hand. If you have somebody in your family who owns or operates their own family-run business, I'd like you to raise your hand and keep it handed up. If you have a customer or a supplier base that are small businesses, your services offered to small businesses, entrepreneurs, or they're a critical part of your operations as a supplier, raise your hands. If you have services such as public officials whose responsibility is to make sure that small businesses are protected and have services in your community, raise your hand. My guess is by now virtually everybody here has raised their hand. And I believe that shows the wonderful mosaic of how significant small business is. I'm going to share some slides, and if you raised your hand, particularly those of you that are entrepreneurs, own your own business, I hope you'll jot down one or two of these statistics, because I know, particularly given this past year, how extremely difficult and often how frustrating it is to be a business owner. And I want you to write one or two of these statistics that I'm about to share and pin it up next to your desk or in your desk drawer or somewhere that you look at often, because I want you to really say to yourself, wow, I am really part of something very significant and very important. Let me try to share my slides here if I can do this without, let's see. I think I can. Well, I did it earlier. I apologize here.
Can you?
All right, is that coming up?
No, not yet. I'm showing right now because I'm speaking.
It's not
you?
coming up?
No. You did have them earlier. You may have to escape out of your PowerPoint to find it again.
Okay, let me do that. Can't find it on my, well, let me just go through what I was going to go through without, I don't know what happened to them. Am I sharing it now or not?
No.
Okay, well, we will improvise.
Are you able to find it when you click share screen? Are you able to see it in your selection of windows? When you click the green button that says share screen? Is it showing up in the window that pops up?
When I do that, I don't see it. I did see it before. Okay, well, let's go. We'll go on without it. Let me just give you some statistics that I just think are so critical and so important, that helps really demonstrate how significant small business is. In Ohio, we have nearly 100 million small business, or excuse me, nearly 1 million small business enterprises, and of which almost 8 out of 10 employ 25 or fewer. And of that almost 1 million small businesses, and this is identified by the US Small Business Administration, of that almost 1 million small enterprises, almost 650,000 of them are self-employed, the smallest of small businesses. If you want to look at it in terms of employment, when you back out government jobs, almost 50% of Ohioans who are in the workforce today get their paycheck signed on the front end of that paycheck by a small business owner. When you look at it in terms of opportunity to enter into the workforce for the very first time, and I recall growing up in Marion, Ohio, my first job was at a family restaurant bussing tables as a 16-year-old. I'm not uncommon. 70% of all Ohioans got their first opportunity to get a paycheck and learn what it meant to move up the economic ladder by that opportunity that was granted to them by a small business owner. If you look at it in terms of who's committed to their local community, small business owners, for every $1 that is spent in a community through a small business by shopping a small business or getting a good or service at a small business, $68 stay within that community as compared to when you shop or purchase from some sort of a national vendor where only 40 some dollars stay in that community. If you look at people who have a lifelong commitment to their community, almost 75% of small business owners grew up within 50 miles of where their business operations are today. If you look at it in terms of the fastest growing segment of our business community, the fastest growing segment of our business community are women business owners and other designated minorities who are really understanding how to shatter the glass ceiling through entrepreneurship by being their own boss. And then without any question, you can go throughout the decades, 2 out of every 3 new jobs that are created by small businesses. Given what we've been going through, I tell everybody that the leading indicator of economic recovery is never been Wall Street. If you look at any great recessionary period in American history, the leading indicator of recovery has been startup new businesses. And it makes sense. When you think of folks who've been displaced, they start that small bookkeeping job or accounting job in the spare bedroom. They start that small welding shop in their garage. And that has always been the sign of economic recovery. So I submit to you that the old adages of the 1950s was what was good for General Motors was good for America. But I would submit to you that what's good for small business has always and will continue to always be what is good for America. Let me shift a little bit, and unfortunately I can't share my slides, but let me shift a little bit about what's been on everybody's topic, and that is the impact of this horrible pandemic during the past year on small businesses. Without question, small businesses have struggled mightily under this pandemic. I want to first start out with the premise that the vast majority of small business owners have been very concerned with the pandemic. They believe very strongly that the preservation of life is critically important. And you will not find a small business owner who doesn't understand that a highest priority for them is to make sure that their employees are safe and that their customers are safe. It simply defies logic that if you're careless in either of those two, you won't be in business very long. And so that has always been at the paramount of small businesses. At the same time, they have struggled to try to preserve what they have invested their livelihood and their life savings into, and what they have committed their time and energy into starting and creating and growing. And so this has been a really tough balance for small businesses as they've tried to balance those two very strong competing interests in how do we make sure we do the right things to be safe, but at the same time, not destroy the livelihood of not only my business, but I already mentioned to you of the so many people that are counting on me to provide them with a paycheck and the critical goods and services that consumers of this state need no matter what. And so that has been a very difficult balance. But let me share with you what I think are some very interesting statistics throughout this. Obviously, businesses in early spring had to shut down, and the vast majority of them had to shut down for some period of time. And so as they adapted, and because they had to shut down, and it was no fault of their own, as it was no fault of anybody's. This virus obviously was something that nobody looked for or created or wanted for us to have. They did need desperate help in terms of staying alive and surviving through it. And as you know, the federal government stepped in with two very critical programs, the PPP program and the EIDL program. And let me just tell you, those were absolute critical lifelines. Over 144,000 small businesses in this state took advantage of almost $8 billion in COVID relief that really became a very critical lifeline. Let me also share with you that something that I think, and I'm going to sing praises where praises are due, and that was in Governor DeWine's administration in early on identifying how to keep the economy functioning as best we could. And I give him a lot of credit and his team, and in terms of creating definitions of what was an essential business. Now, I didn't like that term because I think all businesses are essential, but let me give you some examples in the way they crafted the essential business order here in Ohio as compared to two other neighboring states. In Pennsylvania, they did it simply by SIC code. So if you were a certain type of SIC code, you had to shut down. In Ohio, it was much more thoughtful. And why was that important? Well, in Pennsylvania, if you were a pallet maker, you were shut down. In Lima, Ohio, the Lima Pallet Company makes pallets for their largest customer who's right next door, and that is the Procter & Gamble bleach factory. Think about not being able to get bleach out during the pandemic. Would have been illogical. It happened in Pennsylvania. Think about the small nuts and bolts company in Dayton, Ohio, that makes these little small bolts and nuts. In Pennsylvania, under the SIC code, they would have been shut down. In Ohio, they remained open because those nuts and bolts end up in ventilators. So critically important. In our state to the north, Michigan, they made a decision there to do it by product, which created total chaos. So you would go into, a store and certain things would have been removed from shelves, or certain things had yellow tape around them. And obviously that created absolute chaos and mayhem in the shopping arena for those products. And so the governor, I think, did a really good job in identifying what needed to stay open and how it could be operated safely. And in fact, and this is a secret that most folks don't realize, though I have shared it with the administration, is that over 70% of Ohio's small businesses were able to stay open and remain open through the pandemic. And I think we were one of the leading states, particularly where we had mass shutdowns and able to do that. Now, financially, small businesses took a tremendous hit. In fact, 1 out of every 5 of our members indicated that they took over 50% year-over-year revenue loss, and almost 80% have taken a loss of 20% or greater in terms of their revenue. But we also had a lot of businesses that did very well. I think of My Landscaper, a small business landscaping company down here in Central Ohio. And he came to do my yard in the spring, and I asked him, I said, how are you doing? I was thinking it was going to be a real doom and gloom, and he wasn't doing well. He said, Roger, I'm having my best year, because everybody's at home looking at how bad and how crappy their yard is. And so they're doing things to their properties. So there was a mix, but clearly our indoor businesses, our restaurant and bars took the brunt of this. Small retailers took the brunt of this. Our entertainment industries took the brunt of this and are still struggling to recover. So the best thing I can offer and suggest is, when you're comfortable and when you're able to, think small and shop to help that recovery really take place. We've seen that there were a number of financial steps that were taken in Ohio in addition to what was done federally that was extremely important. Over $8 billion in reserves from the Bureau of Workers' Compensation was refunded back to employers. That was double what they paid into the system. So again, it was a tremendous and huge cash infusion for many businesses that were hanging on by a thread. The governor created a number of small business relief programs, small business grants, forgivable grants. As best the state could do, the state, as you know, can't deficit spend like the federal government, so very limited. The governor in his proposed budget has a $460 million small business grant program, really targeted mostly at those companies that I mentioned that took the brunt of it, the restaurant and bar industry, the entertainment industry. I do think that there's going to be some lessons learned from this in terms of the future. I do believe that there is an honest discussion that has to take place about whether or not if you were a large corporation and you could remain open and yet you followed all of the safety protocols, you were a small retailer who could not, I would submit to you that you were probably a lot safer going and buying a mattress or a TV or whatever in a small retail store with 2 or 3 people in it versus a major box store where you were in with your 500 or 600 of your closest friends. And so I do think that's an honest thing going forward as we learn if you can follow those protocols that are established. Should you be able to stay open. I know my time is getting short, but there are a lot of issues that are critical to small business that we still need to resolve. We've got a whole workforce development issue. I think the pandemic, and I'm pleased to see Tim Miller, who's a board member of mine and who has just agreed to serve on the state school board appointed by the governor. He's going to have his hands full. I'm worried about whether or not we were already behind in keeping up with a skilled workforce in this state. I think we've lost a year, and it'll be interesting to see how those assessments come. But when 60% of the inner city Columbus schools kids did not even log on, that's scary. So we need to address that. Certainly healthcare and the cost of healthcare remains one of our top concerns for small businesses. And we also have a very antiquated, we saw it in this pandemic, unemployment system that hasn't worked well. It's created a lot of fraud, and we really need to address that. So I know my time's short, but Mr. President, if I haven't left any time for a question or two, I'd be happy to do that. I want to thank you for this opportunity. Each of those topics that I talked about could be a topic unto themselves, but I want to end positively. We had a record startup of small businesses this year in spite of everything. The Secretary of State record number, unbelievable to me, but again, positive sign, as I said earlier, about a leading indicator. I believe in the faith of entrepreneurs. It's unbelievable how they'll be knocked down and get back up. I believe that what makes this country great, what makes this state great, and what makes Summit County great is when you have a free enterprise system, economic system, that is married with a democracy, a representative form of governance. That's the best way to preserve our way of life, is to make sure we have a robust free enterprise system coupled with a system of democracy. When you think about the struggles around the world and throughout history, it's been because they've lacked that combination of one or the other. And so I have a lot to be positive about. I have a lot to think we are going to get through this. Entrepreneurs are going to help lead the way through this. Again, I didn't even get to touch about how many small businesses reposition themselves to provide for things like sanitizers, where people who were in the distillery business, or people who made face masks or hand sanitizer. Unbelievable. Well, what many small businesses did to retool themselves, because they're the most nimble, the most quick to do that. So again, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for what you do as Rotarians. I always am impressed with what Rotary clubs do around this state to support their local communities. And again, thank you for the opportunity.
Well, thank you, sir. And we are short on time, but if you have time, I will adjourn the meeting, and then we will allow some Q&A in this room for the next 10 or 15 minutes or so. So happy Mardi Gras, folks, and the meeting is adjourned. All right. Well, thank you for sticking around. Let me see what our gallery looks like. We've got a number of people here. I don't know if Karen is still free to mine questions. If not, I can do that.
I can watch the questions, Dr. McGregor.
Okay. Are there any sitting there already?
No questions in the chat room as of right now, Dr. Rob.
Nope, just
Okay,
awesome
Dave.
presentation from Sam Lupica. Here's one. Can you address how NFIB worked with the governor for Reopen Ohio?
Absolutely. Right from the very beginning, literally the week, middle week of March, I'll never forget it, 30 years with this station, just like you, I've never experienced something like that. We shut our offices down, worked from home until the end of May. But I was on the call with either the governor or the lieutenant governor, almost on with the lieutenant governor, especially for the first month, probably almost every day. And we immediately submitted 14 items about how could we do to help mitigate some of the huge impact this was having. And I'm pleased to say of the 14, almost 10 of them were adopted in some way, shape, or form in terms of opening. The most critical and the most immediate issue was this idea of how do we keep businesses, as many as we can, opening and functioning. And as I said, we worked really hard on the definition of an essential business. Again, I don't like that term, but that's the term that was used. So we worked really hard to make sure that we didn't use one of these arbitrary decisions that other states had done that really created unintended consequences by shutting down people that were extremely important, mainly in the supply chain. The second thing that we worked really hard on was making sure that unemployment, and again, that system is archaic and broken, but we worked really hard to make sure that we could flow unemployment through this state. As you know, that's a state and federal program, which made tremendous complexities. We worked hard to allow, both at the state and federal level, our advocacy mission was to get individuals, self-employed individuals, access to unemployment, which historically had not been available to them. We worked obviously really hard on the various loan programs that I mentioned and getting them into the system. And then we worked really hard with our members for those that could reposition themselves into helping in those critical months where we couldn't find face masks, where we couldn't find hand sanitizers, where we couldn't find plastic separation guards, and I had a small framing company that normally was in the business of making picture frames, and they were able to reposition so that they were cutting plexiglass so that we could use those in bars and restaurants and other businesses for So I hope that answered the question, but there was an awful lot that went on in terms of not only keeping as many businesses open, but then also the gradual reopening of certain industries.
There is another
Sorry, Cheryl, I got a question that came to me directly, Roger, from one of our members asking, can you talk a little bit about membership to NIFB and what the cost is and how they go about joining?
Yeah, as long as you're an independently held and for-profit company, we're like a chamber. We're a 501c6 professional business organization. I encourage you to go to nfib.com, learn all about us. We have both a national advocacy as well as state advocacy, and we have a very interesting dues structure. You get to set your dues. We don't have a magic formula. Our typical member in this state pays us about $230.
And there is another one in the chat box. Were some of the new businesses a result of the pandemic and individuals deciding now was the time to strike out on their own since their current job was gone?
Very typical of what happens during any recessionary period. And I mentioned that I'm going to look here for my notes so I get the right number. The Secretary of State, who does all of the business filings, reported that I think it was over 17,000 businesses that started up during this past year, which is just phenomenal, unbelievable to me. But yes, it's a result of folks who either got laid off and said, look, I have a skill set that I have that I want to continue working and I want to continue to provide for myself and my family. And so I'm going to, as crazy as this may sound, I'm going to launch out into my own career. And interestingly enough, A lot of people think that it takes a tremendous amount of capital to start a small business. The average startup cost in Ohio for a small business who's truly just starting out from scratch is about $5,000. $5,000. And you know why it's $5,000? That's the max on their credit card. That's their capital financing mechanism for many entrepreneurs. And so it was a result of being laid off, or they figured this is an opportunity to start. And again, to me, it was unbelievable that we saw as many. I thought that number was going to take a big dip this year, and actually it did not. Which also tells me that that there's still nothing wrong fundamentally with our economy. I think the fundamentals of our economy are good and are still sound. This just had this crazy, unbelievable wrinkle of COVID. I believe that most businesses think it'll take about a year to fully recover. But I don't think, like you see in a normal recession where it gradually goes down and then it takes a while to gradually go back up. I think we're going to have more of a spike back up.
Thank you, Roger. We got a couple more questions here coming in. Do you know, a member asked if you have any idea why dentists were not deemed necessary during the pandemic to start?
Why dentists?
Correct.
Right. Again, I hated that term, and my assumption is that in the very beginning, the idea was to preserve the hospital capacity. Remember, dentists often have to do, and again, this is just my assumption. This isn't a decision that I made. I don't want to get blamed for it, but in the discussions, obviously in the early stages of the pandemic, where there was a real shortage of supplies of personal protection equipment, was designed to reserve for the hospital systems and those procedures that absolutely had to be done. And so I think, given that the dentists in the medical field use a lot of those same gloves and masks and cleaning supplies, there was an attempt to really minimize that so that we could keep the capacity for first responders and emergency rooms and hospitals that were dealing with the direct impact of COVID patients. So I believe that's where that decision came from, was trying to limit. It was not so much that they didn't think dentists were essential. It was to preserve the materials needed.
That makes sense. Very good. I have another question in here. You have any idea how Rotarians might help encourage minority business development?
Well, the fastest growing segment of the business community has been for the last decade, and I believe it's going to continue, is women business owners and minority owned businesses. We got two things that are going on. One is we continue, and this is a societal issue. Most minority-owned businesses tend to be in urban settings, and we still struggle with economic vitality in urban settings, and lots of reasons for, which you and I could spend hours trying to figure that all out. But it is it is very difficult to open up a small retail shop or a small restaurant, particularly in economically disadvantaged, because you have to make it work economically. Business owners can't operate at a deficit because it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. The model doesn't work. And so that's a challenge. The second challenge that we have is, unfortunately, and this goes beyond just minority communities, but we are seeing a steady decline of the entrepreneurial spirit. People are not risk takers today. The average age of small business owners are approaching 60. And we're not seeing a huge number of young folks wanting to take the risk. They'd rather work for somebody and not have all the headaches and all the risk that's associated with being an entrepreneur. So that's going on. Now, the world's also changing. There's a positive side. Obviously, technology is allowing you to work at a coffee shop and be your office, and you can be in international trade. So there's a tough, but to encourage on minority-owned businesses, there are programs out there. SBA has programs. The state of Ohio has programs that help. There's a great program called SCORE that allows for somebody who wants to be an entrepreneur to connect with somebody who's seasoned and veteran and gives a lot of life experiences. It's not easy. It's not easy. So there are programs out there, and we are seeing an uptick.
Thank you. Another question here. Can you talk about the grassroots nature of NFIB versus other state and national trade groups?
I didn't catch the question one more time.
Sure. Can you talk about the grassroots nature of NFIB versus other state and national trade groups?
Yeah, I appreciate whoever asked that question. We pride ourselves in being, we're not, we don't have a big political action committee. We don't throw lots of money at government and government operations. That's not NFIB. NFIB is, is made up of small business owners. And so our strength comes through our advocacy mission and the fact that we have very active members across this state. We have what we call area action councils, including one in Akron that meets quarterly. We've been doing them by Zoom this past year that meet quarterly, and we invite the congressmen, the state legislators. We've had a whole series of how-to seminars on how to do all these loan programs and how to respond to the pandemic. So we do a lot of education, and we do have a strong activism program. Our strength is, as an organization, is we probably have at least 1,000 members in every congressional district across Ohio. That really, when the plea for a voice to be heard, it gets heard.
Very good, thank you. I don't see any other questions in the chat room at this time. If anybody else on the meeting has a question, feel free to unmute and go ahead and ask. Well, Roger, I truly appreciate you did a fantastic job. Great presentation.
All right.
And appreciate your time.
I appreciate doing it, and anytime I can be helpful. Let me give you my office number if anybody wants to follow up. My office number is 614-221-4107, 614-221-4107. My email address is roger.geiger, Geiger, @nfib.org, roger.geiger@nfib.org. And I can also be found on our webpage, nfib.com. So again, thank you for this opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheryl, will you share that in the Rotarian?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Roger.
Thanks. Bye. Stay safe and stay warm.
Thank you.
You too.